Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The fate of the Hillcrest jumping castle operator won't be decided for another 4 months, with final submissions heard in Devonport today. Defence claiming the system was against Rosemary Gamble from the start, pointing blame for the tragedy at the inflatables manufacturer.
After a 2-week hearing in November, back in court for a final day of legal argument. Rosemary Gamble defending a charge of failing to comply with a health and safety obligation while operating a jumping castle which was lifted 20 metres into the air by what's been described as a mini tornado at Hillcrest Primary School, killing 6 children. The Crown case against Miss Gamble centres around the fact the jumping castle was secured with 4 pegs that day, despite having 8 tethers. Chinese manufacturer East Inflatables claims a user manual was supplied to Miss Gamble directing all tethers be secured with a stake. But defence lawyer Chris Dockray today pinned blame on the manufacturer, which he claims lied to Miss Gamble throughout the sale process and forged invoices and documents. Miss Gamble says she never received a manual and instead downloaded a version from the internet which didn't specify a number of pegs. Mr Dockray telling the court Australian standards were confusing and no help to her because the system is predicated on manufacturer's instructions being provided, but the system failed Miss Gamble. Adding the dust devil that day was unforeseeable and that no anchorage system would have prevented the outcome. But in her submission, prosecutor Madeline Wilson said wind is an ever-present risk and steps must be taken to mitigate the risk of wind acting on these inflatables, arguing many of TASORB's procedures, including risk assessments, were deficient and that a qualified person should have been asked to give them advice. After today's submissions, Magistrate Webster also has 10 days of mostly complex expert witness testimony and hundreds of pages of written evidence to consider. He'll deliver his verdict in June. Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmania News.
The owner of 2 United petrol stations in Kingston and Sandy Bay has been ordered to pay up nearly $180,000 in penalties. The federal court finding 4 migrant workers from India and Bangladesh were underpaid a total of $20,000 over just 2 months in 2020 and 2021. The owner, Mr Loveleen Gupta, was also found to have falsified pay slips and not paid overtime.
Money was repaid, but then one worker was asked to pay that back, which is a practice that is called cashback. And that's particularly egregious, particularly audacious, I think, and the judge thought so too.
The Fair Work Ombudsman warning any traders involved in wage theft will be caught. The workers, all with visas, have since been paid. The fire threat on the west coast has eased for now, but we warned that could change in an instant. It's hoped interstate crews and favourable conditions will help containment efforts before the risk level rises again later this week.
Arriving to help bolster the frontline fight, 26 remote area firefighters from New South Wales and the ACT ready to hit the ground running.
Whenever we need extra help, we always put the call out, and Tasmania crews are always more than happy to come up and help us, so we're always happy to come down and help them in return.
With 94,000 hectares already burnt and multiple blazes still burning, they're under no illusion of the battle they're up against.
Expecting a bit of a hard slog, a lot of digging up, some of that underground heath and the root systems.
The specialist crew are trained to reach remote areas.
Qualified to winch in to these remoter areas. Provide us additional crews to get into those additional areas so as we can get ahead of it while we've got an opportune weather period.
A cool change has helped containment efforts in recent days.
We've got some favourable weather. The southwesterlies have brought some rain to the fire grounds, which has helped calm it.
But the threat is far from over. A change later this week could see temperatures soar back above 30 degrees with a switch in wind direction.
That will lead to high fire danger across parts of the west, south, east and inland areas on Saturday.
The battle now, using the next few days to prepare.
We'll throw everything we have at containing these edges before our high fire danger comes.
Victoria Risto, 7 Tasmania News.
An inquiry into the horse racing industry has revealed a harness racing rule may have been breached by Tasmanian father-son trainers Wayne and Ben Yole. And despite ongoing concerns surrounding the industry, the government and opposition say it still has a future in the state.
It's an industry that has been rocked by scandals. Tas Racing's boss facing a parliamentary grilling, revealing horse trainer Wayne Yole was given approval to run horses as recently as yesterday.
There was a hearing last week where the appeals board granted a subsequent stay through until the 5th of March.
Raising concerns it could open the door to a possible conflict of interest between Wayne and his son Ben Yole, who was disqualified from the sport for 3 years.
Did you raise any concerns, or has Tas Racing raised any concerns about the transfer of Ben Yole Racing's animals simply to a new trainer on the same location being in clear breach of the harness racing rules?
We did raise concerns with the Office of Racing Integrity and the Director of Racing at the time.
Other racing stakeholders also taking issue with the conditions horses at Ben Yole's property are being kept in.
The conditions haven't changed at all, to my knowledge. It's still the same place, still most probably not appropriate.
The opposition leader believes the industry does have a future in Tasmania, but needs to clean up its act.
We've got a fine tradition, we've got great people in racing, but we do need to push the ones that aren't doing the right thing out.
The government saying it's confident reforms it has introduced will help the industry improve.
Tasmanians expect racing to be fair and humane, and that's exactly what our major reforms to racing integrity have delivered.
Ben Yole is appealing his disqualification. More hearings will take place next month. Anthony Dodd, 7 Tasmania News.
The opposition is taking aim at the government's handling of the state's economy after a leading consulting firm found Tasmania is headed for a recession. Deloitte raising concerns about the downturn at a meeting with business leaders on Friday. Labor says it's further proof the government doesn't have control of the state's finances.
We can take Moody's, Standard & Poor's, we can take Saul Estlake, we can take ComSec, we can take Deloitte Access Economics, all saying there's a significant issue.
The government's disputing the forecast, with the revised estimates report showing productivity growth over the next 16 months.
Tasmania has had the strongest growing economy in the nation for the last 7 years. That wasn't predicted by Deloitte.
A full breakdown of the state's finances will be outlined in the May budget. With cyber attacks on the rise, the state government has launched an ambitious plan to add an extra 4,000 workers into the IT industry to combat threats. Its cybersecurity strategy will see the education and business sectors work closer together to train up future experts in Tasmania.
This is an area that is fast growing and also an area that's immensely important to all aspects of the community.
We're in competition with other states and territories as well. So I want students to know that they can get those incredible jobs, get their start here in Tasmania.
The 4-year initiative aims to have 11,000 ICT workers employed in the state by 2030. Advocacy group The Neighbours of Fish Farming is calling for the Environmental Protection Agency to intervene in the wake of shock video obtained by the Bob Brown Foundation. The group says it appears to show thousands of dead salmon being pumped out of their pens at a Tassal lease at Crease's Mistake on the Tasman Peninsula. It claims the disposal is a clear breach of licence conditions. Tassal has hit back, saying the allegations are wrong and it's focused on sustainability, managing environments where it farms. The ultimate combo, clowns and puppies, have helped put a smile on the faces of sick children and stressed staff at the Royal Hobart Hospital. The visit's just one of the initiatives aimed at shedding a light on the mental impacts of being in hospital.
A silly distraction at the Royal Hobart's paediatric ward.
We have this donkey, toilet paper.
Blair is just one of 28,000 Tasmanians who've received a special clown visit in the past year. Today, reunited with the friends who helped her navigate a serious bone disease.
They would be in the room with us while the chemotherapy was, going into her body, but for Blair, she was being distracted the whole time.
While we're working with the child on this side, the nurses are working with the damage on this side. We always address the child. We don't take into consideration the condition of the child.
The Humour Foundation launching its annual All Smiles appeal, hoping to raise the $60,000 it needs to keep clowning around in our hospitals.
Provides a moment of respite and relief, but it also provides important distraction for children during moments when they can otherwise have extreme fear and anxiety.
While laughter might be the best medicine, it isn't the only one. Chili and Louie certainly not missing the chance to get a few extra cuddles in on their way to visit ED staff.
Be calm enough that they can react to any situation that might occur. We have some that work better in aged care. There is very few select ones that can work in the emergency department.
The visit part of 6 weeks of mental health boosting activities, supporting those who look after others.
I think we don't really have time to think about it because the next patient's in and then the next scenario is happening. So we don't often get time in between patients to think about what we're experiencing and what we're feeling.
Hitting pause on their stress, even just for a minute. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
Some of southern Tasmania's best produce is set to be plated up at the 33rd Taste of the Huon Festival in Ranelagh. Revellers will get the chance to sample local food, wine and music, all while basking in what's left of the summer sun. Around 20,000 people attended last year's event. Similar numbers are expected this time round across 2 days in early March. The North West Coast is tipped to become the state's hub of clean energy training. A new $27 million centre of excellence based at Burnie TAFE will give students critical skills to work on the renewable technologies of the future. The joint federal and state government venture hopes to boost Tasmania's green energy credentials and support our transition to net zero.
Just in time for Tasmania's must-win Shield clash with South Australia, local stars Mitch Owen and Bo Webster return to the Tigers ranks. Sitting fourth in the standings, victory over the ladder-leading Sackers will spark a major ladder reshuffle. And still buoyed by last week's thrilling win against Victoria, the skipper is backing his men to make a late-season charge.
It's often been the recipe with us a little bit, that we've maybe been a little bit slow at the start but really charged home, so we can take confidence from years gone by that this group tends to play its best cricket once the season's hot.
Aidan O'Connor and Navethan Radhakrishnan keep their spots in the 12-man squad. The Tasmanian Tridents are sitting pretty on day one of the Bowls Premier League. A 9-5 win over the Sydney Lions this afternoon is one of 2 wins from the 3 rounds so far, lifting them to 4th on the ladder. The action continues tonight and runs all week in Moama in New South Wales. A teen cycling sensation from Hobart is firming up as a contender for the Tour of Tasmania later this week. After picking up 4 medals at the Oceania Track Championships in Brisbane, Jonas Silverton's Aussies winning gold in the team pursuit with 4 laps to go.
The whistle sounds and that is the gold medal to Australia in the final. They've done the catch.
The 18-year-old also took out bronze in the junior men's omnium and silver medals in both the time trial and scratch race. An early lead was never about to be surrendered by 7-year-old mare Nova Baxter as she cruised to victory in harness racing's Meander Valley Cup last night. Trained and driven by Beauty Point's Rowan Hillier, she finished 3 metres ahead of the Wayne Yold-trained The Old Bomb.
Good evening. Hobart 18 today, Launceston the state's high with 22, nearly 3 degrees below average, Devonport 19 and Burnie 20. A chilly night at Lyowini saw the mercury drop to -3 and some temperatures today up to 6 below normal. Smithton and Ouse 21, Friendly Beaches, Lowhead and Flinders Island all 20, King Island 19 today, St Helens and Grove 18, Strawn 16 degrees. Some cloud, mainly over the west and south as high cloud approached the state this afternoon. Cloud over the top end of the nation and the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone now over southern WA. The rest of the country mostly clear. A cold front clips us tomorrow as a trough cuts through central Australia. The winds will tend west-southwesterly with the passing of the front. They will reach 30 knots around most of the coastline and we have a strong wind warning for most of the coastline from St Helens Point clockwise to Stanley. Hobart tomorrow, 18, 60% chance of a shower. Adventure Bay, a windy day and 19, 13 the high for Tarraleah with a shower. Launceston 22, partly cloudy, Devonport 21, partly cloudy for Bridport as well, 24 the maximum. Cloudy in Burnie, 19 the high. Just 17 for Strawn, showers easing, a shower or two for Marrawar, a windy afternoon, and 18 the top. 22 for St Helens, partly cloudy for Swansea, 21. Whitemark, maybe a shower, a bit of wind as well, and 21 degrees. Fine on Wednesday, apart from a shower over the west and south. Mostly sunny on Thursday, a slight chance of a shower over Strawn. And on Friday, a fine partly cloudy day right across the state. 32 in Perth tomorrow, a sunny 28 for Adelaide, a possible shower, and 21 the top in Melbourne. Fine, and 27 in Canberra and Sydney. Partly cloudy weather for Brisbane. Little cloudy here at the moment too. 17 in Hobart, 19 in Launceston, cloudy in Devonport, 18 degrees. I pulled a ticket out of the hat again tonight, Kim. So tomorrow night I'll be seeing you from Swansea. Lucky them or me, or both.
Both, I reckon. You are such a trooper, Murph. And that brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin. Thanks for joining us. For now, it's good night.